Here we are on the front of our Heartland Prowler 300 SBH. We're going to be doing a technical walkthrough like technician did on the data delivery. Walk you through the unit, show you how some of these things operate, and if you want a deeper dive on these components or other components, if your unit slightly differs, you can find that under the Great American RV YouTube channel under HAP's Helpful Hacks playlist. We'll start in the front here. We have our 12-volt jack. You'll have a wire running over to your battery system. You're generally going to have an inline fuse in there to help protect it. If your system, for whatever reason, isn't working, you want to check that fuse. You also want to check and make sure you have good battery power on your battery as well. If it works right, you have a light off and on and up and down to run that jack. If the system isn't working, you can always pull this black cap right here, put your jack handle in here, and manually operate that jack up and down. In the front here, you're also going to have your 7-way plug. This is going to transfer all your lights from that vehicle you were towing with over to your camper. You're also going to have a battery charge line that's going to pull off of that alternator of that vehicle to help charge your battery when the vehicle is running. You're also going to have a brake line that runs from your brake controller over to here to help control those brakes whenever you're coming to a stop. This little silver cable right here is going to have a pin that is connected to that box. This cable loop needs to be hooked to your receiver hitch itself, somewhere where the chains are connected, anything like that. Never to the ball hitch or the chains or anything, because if any of that breaks, the idea is for this to go with the towing vehicle and pull the pin out of that box and activate the brakes on this trailer so to bring it to a stop. This will not operate if you don't have a good 12-volt source, so you have to have a good battery that'll hold a charge in order for that to operate. We also want to make sure that pin is also properly inserted and stays inserted. That way we're not activating our brakes whenever we're traveling down the road and we don't mean to. Behind that we have our dual propane tanks along with a dual propane regulator. A dual propane regulator has a selector switch on it. You choose one of the two tanks as your primary. Whenever it runs dry, the indicator on there is going to turn red, letting you know that that tank is empty, and it will automatically pull off of that secondary tank so it doesn't interrupt your propane feed while you are cooking or operating that LP appliance. Now, whenever you want to swap over to that secondary tank, take that selector and turn it to the other tank that you're actually using at that point. The indicator will change from red to full if that tank obviously has enough fuel in it, and then you can take your other tank and have it refilled. Behind that is our battery storage center where we'll put our battery, and then we have our battery disconnect. Our battery disconnect does just that. It disconnects the battery from our camper, and it helps conserve the power on that battery until we're ready to use it again. If we are storing our unit unplugged, we want to make sure that battery disconnect is off so we're conserving the power on that battery. If we are plugged in, we want that battery disconnect on, or if we're using our unit, battery disconnect on so we can use those 12-volt components and the converter system can charge that battery while it's plugged in. Here on our driver's side of our unit, we have our pass-through compartment right here. We have our solar controller system right here that is to help transfer the solar power into charging power for our battery. Your unit is pre-wired for that solar system. If you want more information, we have that QR code on the passenger side. You can scan that QR code and get more information on how to upgrade that system fully. The disconnect right here above it will disconnect that solar. So if you do end up upgrading your system, anytime you park your unit maybe in storage, but you have sunlight that hits that camper and you leave your unit unplugged, you want that solar disconnect on. Completely different from your battery disconnect. You can still turn that one off and that solar system will still charge your battery whenever it has sunlight. Over to the right of it, you have your tire link system by Lippert. It is pre-wired for that system, giving power for that monitor right there. You'll have some sensors that go on your tires. You can purchase that. That's a nice little upgrade so you can monitor the tire pressure on your unit. Down below, you'll notice we have an extend and retract switch right here. That is for our Lippert power stabilizer system. These jacks will come down by the push of a button to help stabilize your unit. Strictly stabilizers only, they're not leveling systems. So when we level our unit, we want to get those stacker blocks and put them under our tires whenever we're backing up to level our unit from left to right. Then we use our tongue jack in the front to level it from front to back. Once that's all done, then we can go ahead and run these jacks down, put a little bit of pressure on them, and then that will help stabilize and reduce the movement in our unit when people are walking around. If we put too much weight on these jacks and try to level our unit with them, they will bend and collapse and break, and that's not going to be covered under warranty. So make sure that we are using them by those guidelines. There is an override for these jacks in the event that they go out. We'll go over that information now. So here we are opposite of our motor in and our switch, and we have this handle. We can see this handle has a little slice in it, and it will line up with the post on that jack. We line it up, and we can manually run that jack up and down if we need to. We can notice our slide outs have these tabs up here at the top that say Calera in each corner. That means that they are prepped for a Calera slide topper. We have our slide out right here. This is an electric slide. It has a motor in the underbelly that will drive that slide out in and out. We do have an override for that system. In the event that it goes out, there's a hole on the passenger side right by your steps through the J-wrap right here, and you can put your crank handle through there and manually crank that slide out in the event that you have a failure of the motor. Here we have our 50 amp power supply plug right here. This is our shore power cord. Come over here, turn that to the right as you put it in, and it will lock it in. Turn it to the left and pull it out. We have that retainer ring on there. It is important to go ahead and tighten that down so this plug doesn't accidentally slip out or cause any arcing on that plug. When we're ready to pull it out, of course, loosen that ring, turn it to left, pull it out. We want to plug this in first and then go over to our shore power and plug it in there. We also want to make sure that our AC systems are off so we don't cause any surges to our compressor on there. Here, right after our slide out, right down below, we have our sewer outlet connection. This is where we'll hook that sewer hose up to be able to run to our outlet either at the campsite or a dump station. Now we have two tanks on this system right here. This is our gray tank and our black tank system. Our gray tank is going to be for our showers and sinks, so fairly clean water, no sewage in that gray tank. That we can leave open all the time as long as we have that hose connection to an outlet. And when we're dumping, if we're dumping at a dump station, just open it up, let all that water drain out. Our black tank system, however, that is sewage from our toilet. So anything that goes in that toilet is coming out of our black tank system, and that we only open up when we're ready to dump. So that tank is full, we're done with our camping trip, one of the two, we're ready to dump. We pull that black valve out and we dump it out. The reason being is we always need a couple of gallons of water in that black tank because any solids that we put in there, toilet paper as well, those solids will dry up and cause a dry tank, and that's kind of an expensive repair that you don't want to visit. So keep several gallons of water as well as your chemicals in there to keep that from happening. Another thing we do when we drain out our black tank is we flush that black tank system. We do have a black tank flush valve on our unit on the opposite side. We'll show you later. We'll hook a water hose up to that, turn that water hose on, and basically there's a little jet nozzle on the other side of this tank that's going to push any debris or anything that's in that tank down to this side of that valve. So you leave that valve open, plug in that hose, and flush it out. You'll see the debris start to come out. Now this does a pretty good job. Pro tip, and we have to be careful when we do this because we can overflow our tank, and if you do that, that's on you. So just giving you this tip and giving you that warning. We can have our black tank flush on, close that black tank valve, and let that tank begin to fill up with some water, open that valve, and let it flush out. This will help a little bit better carry that debris down that tank over to this valve. So once again, if we're not monitoring our tank properly, it can overflow into the camper and make a big mess. So make sure we are doing it and being conscious of how long that water has been running. When we are done, we go ahead and close that valve off. We can add a little bit of water to it from our black tank flush. Once again, as long as we're monitoring our water input, or we can just go over to our toilet, hold that flush pedal down, and allow water to get into our tank. Nice clean water. Leave a couple of gallons in, and then add some chemicals to it. We also want to make sure we're only using RV toilet paper in our tank system. If we don't, it's not going to decompose properly and cause some clogging in there. And we also want to treat it like a septic, so only sewage and only RV toilet paper, nothing else, because it can get caught up in the pipes. So in the back corner of our unit, we'll notice we have another set of Lippert powered stabilizers. Once again, stabilizers only, not leveling jacks, same instruction as the ones in the front. And we also have our city water connection. Our city water connection is for if we have a hose outlet at the campground, go ahead and run that hose over here, turn it on. That's going to supply water to all of our faucets and everything inside of our unit. Here we have our outdoor shower, pretty self-explanatory, hot and cold right there. Here on the rear of our unit, our bumper can be used as a storage center for our sewer hose. We pull that black cap off, put our sewer hose in there if we wish, put the cap back on. Right here we have our cable outlet for campground cable. Run that coax from the coax post and plug it in right there, and we can have cable channels if provided by the campground. Now up here we also have our Furrion backup camera system already pre-wired on here. You just have to purchase the backup camera, install it on there. The power is already ran and you can see what's behind you while you're traveling or backing up. We'll also notice that we have this bracket up top. That bracket is for our Lippert on-the-go ladder system. It's a telescopic ladder that we can purchase and put into that bracket and gain access to our roof. Now, why do we need to gain access to our roof? Well, it's very important. A number of things. Number one is anytime we're traveling, we're susceptible to hitting tree limbs and stuff like that. We need to get up there and check that rubber and make sure we don't have any scrapes, pokes, holes, or anything like that in the rubber to allow water to get in. If we do, we need to maintain that quickly and properly. That way we don't have any water entry. We also need to wash that rubber on that roof every so often as well and make sure we're taking care of it. You're also going to have sealant around all your vents up there. Also going to have sealant around your corners, anywhere where there was a hole, put it in your unit, windows, lights, anything like that, we have sealant. We need to check and make sure that sealant isn't deteriorating, cracking, peeling, anything like that. We need to wash it, clean it, keep it maintained properly. If we do have cracking, peeling, anything, we need to go ahead and clean that off, or either remove old sealant or seal over it to prevent any water from getting in. This is considered owner's responsibility, owner's maintenance. This needs to be done every 60 to 90 days, checked and maintained. If we're not doing this, manufacturers are not going to participate in any manufacturer warranty stuff that has to do with water leaks, and it could cause some major problems down the road. So we want to keep your camper in good condition. Make sure we're doing that, just like changing the oil in your car. You need to maintain your camper properly. Here on the passenger side of our unit, of course, we have that pass-through access right there. We also have that QR code. We're talking about that solar ready system. You can scan that and get more information on how to get the other products to put on your unit for solar, and how much more information on how it's pre-wired for your system. So as we move down, we have our 12-volt powered awning as well as our 12-volt powered awning lights. If we have any issues with this, we can go to that 12-volt fuse panel on the inside. We'll visit later and check to see if our fuse is blown or anything like that in order to get it operating again. Now our awning provides us with a sunshade. We need to make sure also that we're pitching it a little bit in case we have any light rain, dew, or AC condensation runoff. If we allow that water to puddle up on our awning, it can collapse. If we have high winds, it can be ripped off. That could cause an expensive insurance claim. So when in doubt, go ahead and roll that awning in. But anytime you put it out, you want to make sure you're pitching it to the side, either to the front or the back. In order to do that, we have a little knob right here. We'll loosen that knob and we'll just pull down on that awning arm and just pitch it a little bit to allow that water to run off. When we want to run our awning back in, we need to make sure we loosen that knob and allow that shock to push it back up. That way that awning will come in properly. Moving down the line, you'll notice that your entry door has a little magnetic latch down there at the bottom to help keep that door open whenever you want it open, keep the door from swinging around, wind blowing. Here we have our Lippert solid steps. Solid step is a nice upgrade. We can just lift them up and store them right there. We want to open that yellow latch like that to make sure that it clicks into our frame properly for storage on both sides. And it's also a good idea to make sure that our entry door is all the way open against that wall so we're not hitting that screen door and tearing it up. Pull them down, we're just going to pull that yellow lever again, and we pull our legs down. Now, very important, after we have leveled our unit, we need to come over here and level our steps. We can do that by pulling these pins out of the legs right here and adjusting the legs to get those steps level. We're looking for, obviously, is a nice flat surface so we can get in and out safely, but we also want to make sure that the bottom of our door isn't hitting this frame and that our threshold is level so our door will close properly. If we don't, then we can cause some damage to the bottom of that frame. That's not going to be covered under warranty. So make sure we're leveling our steps properly. Of course, we have our grab handle right here. If we lift it up, we can go ahead and turn it to the side for travel. Up above me, we have our speakers that are controlled by the interior radio system. We also have a vent right here over our window. That vent is over our stove top on the inside. We can kick that vent on and ventilate the air from the inside when we're cooking out to the outside. Now you'll notice 2 tabs on that vent. You need to push those 2 tabs and open that up. That way the air will actually exhaust out. If we don't, that air is going to stay inside, not exhaust out. When we store our unit, we want to close those 2 tabs to keep insects, rodents, and stuff like that from building any nests in there. We'll notice too, right here we have this little black cap. We remove that black cap, comes a hole right there. That is our freshwater connection. If we go ahead and stick a water hose in there, turn it on, we can fill our onboard water storage. This is for if we are dry camping, we're going somewhere where we don't have that city water connection to provide water for us. We have that onboard water storage. We fill that tank up. We can monitor how much we fill it up with that monitor system on the inside. We'll go over later. And then we will kick our 12-volt water pump on, and we will provide ourselves with water into the all the faucets and everything on the inside. Now, keep in mind, whenever you fill that water system up, that tank, you're adding extra weight to your camper. So only put what you need or what you think you may need. However much you want to put in there, go for it. But if you want to drain some out, we do have a blue line right up under here with a little valve. We open that valve up and the water will come out of that line and drain out of that tank. We need to do that every so often anyways, so that water doesn't become stagnant in that tank as well. To the left of that, we have our park cable right here provided out under our awning. We can plug our TV into that and we can catch air channels or cable channels, whichever one we're trying to get. And then below that, of course, we have our 110 outlet. That 110 outlet is GFCI protected. What that means is those outlets are generally found in any wet location inside and outside of your camper. And if it trips out, it's not working, we want to go to that main GFCI outlet on the inside, generally in the bathroom. We'll cover that when we get in there and try to reset it. It can be tripped from one or two things. Either it got wet or we got too many appliances plugged in, maybe too many griddles, coffee makers, so on and so forth. So if it trips, right when we reset it, we want to unplug some of those appliances, check our outlets, make sure they're not wet, and then go back and reset it, maybe plug them in one at a time. We'll figure out how many is too many. Now we'll notice that hole right here that we talked about. That hole is for that override for our slide out system. We'll also notice a second blue line in here. That second blue line is another low point drain. You're going to have 2 more towards the rear of the unit, a red and a blue line. These are all low point drains to drain the water out of your system when we're preparing for winterization. We want to prepare it for winterization when the weather gets cold. We're going to drain all the water out, and then you can also go a step further and put RV antifreeze in those lines as well. We have our Suburban tanked water heater right here. The water heater is electric as well as propane operated. We'll go over more information on that when we go to the inside. And to the left of that is our exhaust for our furnace. Well, another gas operated appliance. Those 2 areas when operated may get a little hot, so just keep that in mind when you're outside in this area. Behind our awning we have that black tank flush connection. We'll hook our water hose up to it and it will help flush out our black tank when we're ready to dump. So we'll notice right when we walk into our entry door, we have our control center right here. This is where we monitor all of our tanks that are in the unit. So we may see multiple black tanks and multiple gray tanks. They vary by model. It's just a generic panel that they put in here. On this particular unit, we only have 1 black and 1 gray. Below that, we'll see that we have our water pump system. That's that 12-volt water pump that is going to pull out of our freshwater tank. The only time we need to use that is if we, once again, don't have a city water connection and we need that water out of that tank, we'll kick that on. Now, it's only going to operate on demand whenever we turn our faucets on. If you hear it continuously running and we don't have water on, you want to shut that off. That either means that we have a leak or it means that our tank is dry, so we want to avoid burning up that pump. If we have that city water connection, leave that water pump off. Here is our water heater switches. We have LP gas and electric. If we want to use LP, of course, we do have a 30 amp system if we're trying to reduce the amount of electric that we're using so we don't over amp our 30 amps. We want to go ahead and use that gas. Make sure your propane is full, and I highly suggest we bleed the air out of that. We'll go over that when we get to our stovetop system. So the way it works, you just kick it on. Once again, make sure your propane is on. We'll see a DSI fault light that pops up right there. Once that system lights, then that DSI fault light will turn off. If there is an actual fault in the system, it will come back on or never turn off, one of the two. and lets you know that, hey, there's a problem that you need to go out and look at it. So that'll turn off and on as needed when that water starts to cool down. Our electric side is an electric element inside that tank. Simply just kick it on. That's only going to work if we have shore power plugged in, and that will go in and heat your water. Now you can kick both of them on at the same time if you want to help heat that water a little bit quicker. There's no problems with that. We have our lights right here. Our light 1 will control our light outside under our awning, and our light 2 will obviously control our interior lights. We have our slide out button right here, in and out, and our awning in and out as well. Everything on here is 12 volt controlled, so if we have any issues with them, we can go to that 12 volt fuse panel and check and make sure that the fuses in there are good to go. In our kitchen area, we have our 110 microwave right there, as well as that hood vent for over your stove top. Remember the vent outside, we need to make sure we open up so that air will actually exhaust out. We have our 3-burner stove right here. This is a Suburban system. We can flip that glass up to be able to use it. We can leave it down for more counter space. Anytime we travel, we need to make sure that glass is down. That way it doesn't fall and bust the glass. In order to operate our stove top, simply pick your designated burner, turn it, and we turn it to the light. We'll hear our gas coming out, and we manually ignite that. Of course, our propane is going to have to be on for our tanks. We'll get our burner going, and we have it rolling. So important thing about our stovetop or our propane system in general is anytime you pull your unit out of storage and you have those valves off, or you just change your tanks out, you're probably going to end up with air in your propane system. So before we go and run things like our water heater or our furnace, we want to come to our stovetop first and bleed the air out of that system. It's going to reduce the opportunity for those items to go into a fault mode because it takes longer for that air to come out of that system. Much easier to come to the stovetop. Do that first after you pull your unit out of storage or you change your tanks out. Of course, we have our little switch right here that will light up our knobs, and we can click it down and that will light up our air fryer down here. The air fryer operates pretty easy. We go ahead and just turn our knob to our dehydrate option if we want to use that, or to whatever our desired temp is, and it will rock and roll. We have our ever-chilled 12 volt refrigerator right here with our dual hinges. We can open it up from this way, making sure that we lock it in on the hinge side, or we can open it up this way. Pretty cool system. Same thing on our refrigerator box. Now, important thing about this system is after we are done using it and we are storing our unit, we want to come turn off that system. We might have done that by just having our unit unplugged or the battery disconnected. And we'll come over and wipe down our refrigerator, let it air out, and we need to defrost our freezer. Defrosting that freezer will get the water out of that system, and we need to make sure that we dry and sop all that water up. If we don't, that water can leak out of here and damage our wood components around our fridge. There's no drain tubes on here, so we need to make sure that we're maintaining that properly, just like our outdoor fridge outside. Here in the hallway, we have our COLP detector right here. That's a safety device to let you know if there's any cautious gases in our unit, and it will chirp and go off and let us know we need to exit our unit. Little green light on there notifies us that it is powered on, and that is a 12 volt operated device. So just keep that in mind. It's running off our battery system. We need to test that alarm every so often. We can just push that test button. It's going to chirp a couple times and make sure that it is working. There is an expiration date on this system. Sometimes it's printed on the front here, and sometimes you have to remove those 2 screws. They're good for about 5 years. It's stamped on the back, stamped on the front. You want to check that and make sure we're replacing it when that expiration date comes around. You're also going to have a smoke detector in your unit. Want to make sure that that is powered up properly as well. It's going to be powered by that 9 volt battery, and test the alarm system on that so all your safety devices are working properly. We have our AirXL Coleman thermostat right here. We'll go over a little bit more information on that now. This is our AirXL thermostat right here. You'll have one for each separate air conditioning system in your unit. In order to operate, you'll hit that space bar down at the bottom. You'll cycle through. You have the options for fan low and fan high. This will only circulate the air throughout your unit. It will not cool your unit. So when we're ready to go into that cool mode, we hit it one more time and it's going to go into cool high or cool low. This will keep the fan on all the time, whether your compressor circulates off or not. it will continue to blow that fan, so the air may not always be cool while it is initiated. Now, one thing that you need to remember is during the summertime, you really actually want it running on cool highs, so it will help clear out that condenser and dry it up during those hot months where that compressor is only cycling every so often. If we want to keep it in auto where that fan shuts off, whenever the compressor shuts off, we're going to hit it one more time. We're going to go into auto, and we can choose our low or high speed. Once again, that fan shutting off when the compressor shuts off and it's done cooling. For your central thermostat, more than likely in your living room area, you will have that heat option that will initiate the furnace as well. When we want to turn that system off, we just continue to cycle through till we get to that off position. When we want to change our temperature, we can just use these arrows right here. That will adjust our temperature on our unit. The initial temperature that you have on here, this is your actual room temperature that you have. Here we have our AC assembly for our air conditioner system. If we want to cool off the air in the living room, we want to open these dump valves like this on each end, and the cool air will only come out of that. Now, this is a ducted unit, so you're going to see all the little circular vents throughout the ducts in this unit. When we want that air to circulate throughout our entire unit, meaning our ducted unit, we want to go ahead and close these off. That way it will travel to our bedrooms. If we don't, that air is only going to come out of here. We do have two filters right here. We can pull them down by these tabs right here on the side. We need to clean those regularly to make sure that we're not restricting the airflow up to our AC. All right, here we are in our bathroom. Our shower is going to be pretty standard. You have your hot and cold right there on the faucet. On your shower head in an RV, though, you're going to have this little button. This button shuts off your shower head. Now, we use that whenever we are dry camping, meaning we don't have a place to dump our tanks right there at the site, so we have to leave that gray tank closed, or we don't have a city water connection. We're trying to conserve the amount of water we're using out of that fresh tank. So easier than having to mess with that control knob to find that sweet spot on the hot water again. We can just push that button right there when we turn that water off to conserve it in between lathering up and rinsing off. And that will just the easier way of doing it. You can use it however you want. Of course, if you have a city water connection, or and also you have a place for that water to drain out and leave that gray tank open, then you can go ahead and use it as normal like you would at home. Over here in our corner, we have our GFCI main outlet. Now we can see we have a black button, a red button on this particular one. Yours may vary, but one is going to be a test button and one is going to be a reset button. If we want to test it, all it's doing is tripping that breaker. For this one, a red light will come on indicating that it's tripped. And same thing can happen if we over amp our outlets outside. We got too many griddles plugged in, hair dryer, coffee maker, whatever. We can trip out that system. Also, same thing can happen if those outlets get wet. So if it trips out and we have that red light, we come over here, we just hit that reset button and it comes back on. If it automatically trips again, we need to go check our outlets, make sure they're not wet, unplug some of those appliances that we have in, and try to reset it again, plug them back in one at a time, and we'll figure out quickly how much we can or can't use. Now we have our toilet right here. Toilet's fairly basic. We're gonna have a pedal over here on the side to dump it, and water will come in and rinse that bowl. Now we need to treat our toilet kind of like a septic system, right? We're only putting toilet paper and sewage in there, nothing else. You will cause some issues with it trying to get down the drain pipes and getting clogged up, expensive repair. So sewage and toilet paper only. If we're using it for number one, hit that pedal, flush it down the drain, you're good to go. We're using it for number two. We want to fill that water bowl up about half to 3/4 of the way by barely depressing that pedal right there on the side and allowing water to come out and start to fill that bowl. You have a little ball valve at the bottom. We just want to watch it and make sure that that's not open, allowing all that water to drain down in the tank, and you can allow it to fill up. And then whenever you're done, you flush it. Having a proper amount of water in there helps that flush those solids down the drain and make it down to the tank. Now, we mentioned toilet paper. We want to use RV toilet paper only. That way it decomposes properly in our unit. And if we don't, that could lead to some clogging of the pipes later on down the road. Now, we talked about earlier, want to leave several gallons of water in here after we flush out our system. We can do it either by that black tank flush, as long as we're monitoring our tanks and it doesn't overflow in, right? Or we can just come and hit that pedal and fill it up from here from the toilet. If that makes you happy, you can do it that way as well. Take our chemical, pour it down the drain from here, and you're good to go. But also on our ceiling, we have an exhaust fan vent. Anytime you take a shower in here, you want to turn that on. That way it gets all the humidity out of here and reduces the opportunity for mold and mildew. So here in our bunkhouse area, not much to go over. Of course, we do have another connection for our cable and air if we want to add a TV. We have that second AC in here. This one won't work off of a thermostat. We have to manually do this one. You have high cool, low cool, and then of course your fan operation. Cool is going to cool the air. Fan is just going to circulate the air. And you have your thermostat here to go from cool to colder. We do have our filters right here on either side. We want to go ahead and keep those clean, just like our front one. Make sure we're not restricting air. And then you have directional flow vents right here for that air out of that AC. Your bunk area, of course, these are stationary, and off to the side you do have one where you can remove that pin and drop it down. We always want to have that bunk down when we travel, and that way we don't cause any issues with it falling out of the wall. It is meant to be down when traveling. You have your bench seat right here. That bench can be turned into a table. We just remove those poles and sit them down on those bumper pads, just like our kitchen table. Here in the hallway, just before our bunkhouse, we do have our 110 and 12 volt control center right here. It's where all your 110 breakers are going to be for your 110 appliances, and your 12 volt fuses for all your 12 volt components. They're all labeled right here, so we can get familiar with that. If any of these items aren't working, we can come over here and check these first. You're also going to hear a fan running behind here. That fan is to our converter system. That converter system is essentially a battery charger. Anytime we are plugged into shore power, you're going to hear that system running, and it's charging and maintaining your battery, as long as that battery disconnect is on, of course. Of course, our dinette booth can go down and add more sleeping space. We can remove these two poles right here and lay the tabletop right here on these bumpers and put our cushions right there on top to provide some more sleeping options. Our couch will slide down into more sleeping space as well, lifting that bottom, dropping it down. Want to put it back, lift that bottom a little bit, grab the back of the sofa, try not to get that cushion so you don't rip it, and then we're back into a sofa. In our living room for entertainment, of course, we can mount a TV on that backer right there. We'll notice our coax plate for our cable or antenna right here, and we have a little button with a green light on it. That button is for our air channels. If we want to work off of air because we don't have cable, we'll want to make sure that that green light is on. So we'll depress that button and make sure that green light comes on. So that is sending a 12 volt boost to our antenna to help pick up more channels in that area. Now, if we are using part cable, we want to hit that button and make sure that light is off when we scan channels for part cable. Otherwise, it'll scramble them there. We have our iRV Technologies radio right here. This is basic radio. We have Bluetooth options, and our zones 1 and 2 will control our interior and exterior speakers. You'll notice we do have a HDMI cable right here that will come from our radio right here that we can run up over to our TV. We have a port right here on the front that is an HDMI input. So if we have a gaming station or anything, we can just plug that HDMI in right here, and then this will feed up to our TV. In our bedroom area, of course, we have storage under our bed if we lift that up. And we're also going to have our wireless charging ports right here on the side. Set your phone down on it and it'll charge your phone. We have a port for antenna and cable for that TV system. And if we look up here, we have this round disc looking thing right up here. And that is for our 4G LTE Wi-Fi system. If we want to upgrade and add a router to this, then we can actually boost the Wi-Fi signal at the campground, or go with a cellular provider and bring Wi-Fi with us wherever we go camping.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.